I experienced the magical quality of it, like the alchemy you were talking about. I know I can sometimes want to resist the mind, and there's an allowing for that too, and it's welcome in a way, because I'm very kinesthetic too. I love sensations, and I can do that part, but it's also allowing the mind back in a way that is really wise, and you can see that happening, and it was magical, and it changes from a kind of a story like that to love. I mean, to go from there to love, which you may not do that every time, but it's just, it was magical. So I liked it. I liked being a part of it because it was happening over here too. So,
neat.
thanks.
Thank you. So from this space, you can always ask a question anytime if there's not one that's alive in you now, or anything you want to share. It doesn't have to be a question. So from this space of being connected to the fullness of the life that wants to express more inside of me. That's what we call a need. To me, it's something that wants to bloom more. I call it the blooming of humans. Being connected to the life energy with this. I feel it in myself as a blooming of something that just wants to take up more space within me. It doesn't need to, and it's not screaming to, and it doesn't have to, but it's inviting to. And I can also make requests of myself and of other people from this space. It's not like we lose the whole OFNR practice. The request will come from, okay, now that I've taken 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes to really feel the fullness of how this thing nourishes me. What are you going to do, Gina, when you get up and you're going to leave the room now? Are you going to just keep on shooting yourself and jackling if it comes back up? How are you going to take care of yourself and immerse yourself in that self-love that feels so good to you? So I can make a request of myself around, okay, I think I'm going to go walk after this alone and see if there's something else inside of me that wants to. I mean, it only took a couple of minutes here. Sometimes I do self-empathy for 2 hours. Maybe there's another piece that wants to bloom inside of me that is important. Because how does this affect my relationships? It changes everything. From how I used to live and how I live now is A to Z. Because self-responsibility is very important to me as an NVC principle. And responsibility does not equate fault, blame, or anything heavy. Responsibility is the ability to respond to the life that's inside of me. So it's heightening my ability to respond, which is heightening my empowerment of who I am and the enjoyment of who I am. So that's, to me, is the very core of NVC, is self-empathy. So when people come to an intro, we hardly do observation, feeling, need, request in a 2-day intro. We'll do almost all empathy, to practice that quality of presence with myself, which I'll then be able to embody with other people. I think it's mostly hard for people to embody a quality of presence with other people when you don't have it with yourself. And that's my story. I'm not saying it's truth. Anything I say is not truth, it's my story. But for me, it was very hard to, even if I had 2 wonderful little babies that I loved, that I still love, although they're not babies, obviously, it was very hard for me to be present with them. And I wanted it more than anything in the world. But it's very hard because I was very fragmented inside of myself and living out of a fragmented, disconnected state. It's very hard to be able to embody loving kindness, patience, tolerance, openness, allowing with the people I love the most. So my practice has been, for all this time, to really embody it for myself, and then it just happens with other people. It's much easier with other people when I'm able to embody it with myself. Did you have something you want to say, Donna?
I just wondered if it's kind of like the beauty of the needs. That's what I hear. Getting in touch, and what was so powerful for me is that when I was, or other people were when I was with Robert, the beauty of the need was then shared with the entire group. And that's what I think I heard people saying. As you got deep into your own needs, we all get into our own needs too. And they may not be the same, but it's just that we're going deeper and deeper and deeper. So that's where I think you're just differentiating a different word, but to me,
Mhm.
I heard beauty of the needs when you were doing that exercise.
Yeah,
Am I right with that? Or-
I think so.
Yeah.
Full.
It
I call
feels
it the
right.
wholeness, or the fullness of what's alive in me, and some people call it the beauty of the needs.
Right.
I think it's the same thing.
Okay.
And it doesn't mean bypassing pain or grief. I really want to be important with that, because some people say, okay, well, this is because we have all been, I think I've been trained, and we've all been trained to bypass grief as much as possible. So it's like, oh, let's go straight to the beauty. It's not about that. It's about accepting everything inside of me. When I do this exercise, this time it came straight to beauty, I must admit. It's probably because of you. But a lot of times when I get to it, I have rage, I have terror, and I open to them all. I just, oh, wow. My story is, there's hate inside of me. Stuff from the past comes up. There's a big streak of bitterness I'm sitting with. There's rage. I want to hit somebody. I'm pissed off. It's just as beautiful being with that as being with what just happened. So that to me is a very important part of it. It is not a spiritual bypass. It's not saying, oh, well, let's transcend any suffering. It's saying, I am totally willing in this moment to be with anything inside of me, whatever that looks like, without trying to get it somewhere else. No agenda. Remember the blocks that we in intros they give you to empathy? Wanting to heal, wanting to fix, all those things are blocks to empathy. Well, they're not only blocks to empathy with other people, they're blocks to empathy with that side of myself. So if I'm telling myself that I want to heal myself, it's very hard to be present with what's just alive, because I have an agenda about, oh, I want to heal, which is already in the future. So all those lists...
have a judgment about what's wrong.
Exactly. So you're already fragmented. So you're going in with a fragmented awareness instead of going in just with a non-judgmental curiosity, wonderment about, oh, what's alive in me? I feel like slapping this person in the face. That must mean something around me. Has nothing to do with that person. I'm always turning the finger back in and saying, wow, this is amazing being a human being. 10 minutes ago I was in peace, now I feel like slapping someone in the face. This is what living life is. So it's not having an attachment to that it has to change or it has to heal, because that's a block for empathy. So I'm going in with a full quality of presence to myself and saying, whatever's there, yes, I want to hear you. Whether my mind thinks it's garbage, it's worthless, other people won't like it, I will treasure it in the moment right now. And that, I think, allows for that space to unfold. There's a kind of inner relaxing where things will come up because they're not being judged as bad or this isn't acceptable. Doesn't mean you have to share it with other people. But it means when I will be with other people, I'll be aware of these parts of myself. I'll be holding them lovingly and not projecting them either unconsciously out on other people by saying a sweet OFNR that is not at all true, or that I'm trying to be nice by using OFNR. And that's obviously a beautiful learning curve in NVC. At the beginning, you try to do an FNR and you see it doesn't work. You know, people do a 2-day intro and they say, hey, it didn't work. Well, if your intention or the reorientation of your heart hasn't changed, it's not changing your language, it will change anything in life. It's not because I tell my child, well, I need order, that's why I'm telling you to pick up, that he'll all of a sudden say, oh, mother, and it's going to be love story. We're going to be running through the fields together because she told me a word that says need. It's not the phrasing. It's never the phrasing, it's the intention.
You could hear it in your speaking, the way you spoke about your sadness. It's so different than when you were telling the story about it. You had this gentle love. You could feel the love for your sadness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just gets transmitted. Then that's so magical.
Yeah. And then when you're sharing that with people, you're just sharing what's alive in you. You would still like him to do the dishes. I'm talking about my son, obviously. And you're grieving grieving and celebrating what's alive in you with another human being. So it's much easier to connect with other people when you're deeply inside of yourself and able to convey that, than if I'm just saying the first layer that I got to, which was, well, I'm needing ease and I want some pleasure and some fun. This is my vacation, damn it. You know? And then I tell that to, my friends and say, I'm needing more pleasure and fun. I'm on vacation. Would you be willing to, So that doesn't convey the fullness of what's alive in me. And I think, I think we all try the mechanics at first, and then people say, well, that doesn't work. It's part of the ripeness and the fullness of practicing NVC. After a while, you see it doesn't work, you go somewhere else. That's the learning curve. We all have learning curves.